I'm sure you all know about the classic book series Clifford the Big Red Dog by Norman Birdwell. You know, the book consisting of a girl named Emily Elizabeth who loved a tiny red dog so much he grew into a big red dog. Yeah, that one. The book series was originally published in 1963. It was written by Norman Birdwell and also was turned into a cartoon series consisting of the same plot. My little sister actually liked this particular book. She had every book of the series exactly up to date, or so I thought. Her birthday was coming up in 2 weeks' time, and I knew not of what I wanted to get her. I wanted to get her a brand new Clifford book, but she had all of them all so far. There was not one she didn't have. She even possessed the very first original Clifford the Big Red Dog. One of the original copies too. Talk about spoiled rotten. I proceeded to speak to my guardian. She told me gently the Aunt Claire was an anonymous novel writer who specializes in children's books. She went by the name of Dreen Cooper. Dreen, what a strange name. But what does this have to do with your sister's birthday? I only have 2 weeks left. She then spoke about how Aunt Claire had been driven to insanity. Your Aunt Claire was a possessive child. If Aunt Claire don't do anything, she wouldn't let it go. Claire was not only possessive and protective, but was the extremely jealous type. If she felt left out, she'd let them know about it, my guardian began. However, Aunt Claire never knew when to shut her mouth or level well enough alone. She paused for a second and spoke in a lower and more quiet tone of voice. Your Aunt Claire was driven insane by my affection for your mother. Claire couldn't stand me and my love for your mom and became jealous of her. Remember how your mother was attacked that night of mid-August last year? She questioned me. Flashes of that day flickered in my brain faster than light. The brakes stopped working one night while we were riding in the car on an evening drive. Mom panicked, despite for the car to stop. After a tumble in the car, crashing on the car on its side, a stranger broke into the car's broken and exposed windows and held a knife to my mother's neck. The person holding the knife to my mom's neck wore a hoodie and a Richard Nixon mask underneath it. The gashes covered mine and my mother's bodies ached like hell, but not as much as my chest did. Seeing that knife by Mom's neck caused my heart to pound at a painful speed. A few moments later, a police cruiser had arrived at the scene, finding a wrecked sedan crumbled into some pine trees and an ambulance. Luckily us, we made our great escape. But I was never told who that was. I nodded slowly, trying to reblock that painful memory from my brain. That was your Aunt Claire. She was taken away to a mental institution shortly after being questioned by the police. My guardian spoke harshly and lowly. I was baffled. What could I say? She forced a smile again. Dreen Cooper had good interventions, however. She declared herself to writing cute novels. Anyway, what was it you asked, Danny? I must have forgotten already. You know me. She giggled at her own forgetfulness. Bless her soul. I was inquiring about a present for Annie's birthday. I spoke, although Nanny didn't seem to think so. The words she'd spoken had caused the environment to become awkward and slightly uncomfortable. Ah, yes, sorry, dearie, she said was a smile upon her auguring face. She slowly got up and walked out of the room, leaving me alone with my thoughts. No more than seconds later, Nana entered the room again, holding a thin, yet rather large book. Take this, dear. Doreen Cooper wrote it. She was inspired by the concept of Clifford and wanted to recreate her own version of the story. This was the only one she'd ever made. Make sure little Annie takes care of this with pride and care. It could be worth a lot of money one day, she babbled on. I will, Nana. Have you read this book before? Nana looked back at me with a puzzled look. I haven't, but it seems okay. It's only a children's short novel after all, right? I said, a little concerned, but I smiled away and thanked her greatly. No problem. Upon arriving home, I opened my bag containing the Clifford book I had to hide from my daughter. I looked at the cover. It worried me a little. The cover consisted of Clifford lying down in his kennel asleep. It was gray in the background, or at least a stone gray hue. It appeared to be raining. A red outlet was drawn on all the characters, and full red for the dog, which appeared to be sleeping. Few people were surrounding it, each of them with a sad expression on their face. Emily Elizabeth, the young girl known as his owner, was hugging the dog's nose that was bigger than her. She had a tear streaming down her face. The two dogs, Cleo and T-Bone, also appeared sad. What kind of book is this? I thought out loud. What kind of book is what? I heard Annie's high-pitched voice squeal in my doorway. I gasped and quickly shoved the book into my bag before she'd seen it. Oh, nothing. Don't worry about it, okay? I smiled gleefully at her, trying my best to hide my concern of the strange novel I'd just been given. Annie cocked her head slightly to the side with a confused expression, but quickly faded to a cheerful smile. Okay, she yelled happily as she skipped away happily. I got up and locked the door as I stared back at the book containing the novel by Doreen Cooper. Doreen was an odd name, so before reading it into the book, I looked it up, just out of curiosity as whether it was a valid name or not. I didn't find much on it except a few characters in some shows was named Dream, one being Tokyo Mew Mew, but I didn't care much of the name Claire had given herself, nor its origin. I only cared about the content of this book. I pulled the book back out of my bag and stared intensely at the cover. It had some dead pixels in the background, and I swear they made out a picture. Of what? I couldn't figure out. I opened the book and to its first page. It looked normal and it looked happy and normal. I gave out a sigh of relief at the thought of it. Maybe, just maybe, being a normal and happy book. The first page consisted of Clifford being hugged by Emily. It had some writing on the bottom of the page. As it was a picture book, it didn't have many words, about a sentence or two per page really. Clifford, you're the best big red dog in the whole wide world. We're so lucky we have you to protect us. I love you. This was cute and normal for this type of book. The second page had a picture of a stormy night and some writing explaining it was a stormy night. Simply enough? No. The third page was also okay. It just said how Clifford was trying to sleep during the storm and had become frightened at the lightning and thunder. The picture was of Clifford covering his eyes with his ovally large red ears. The fourth page showed the morning sun It was gleaming brightly on the page and almost hurt my eyes. Strange, huh? It showed Clifford with a not-so-happy look upon his face, but more of a face covered in paranoia and scared. It said Clifford woke up this morning, still scared of the noise and flashing lights from that night. He sat by Emily's window and waited for her to wake up. The 5th page showed Emily yawning, and the bottom described how she giggled at Clifford's face and how worried he looked. "Don't worry, boy. The thunderstorm has gone now. Look how nice it is." Clifford did seem secure still, but he tried to brush it off. The next page consisted of 2 local dogs, Cleo and T-Bone, smiling up at Clifford, telling him to come and play in a big wooden house they'd found. Page 7 showed the 3 dogs in a large wood-surrounded area. It looked like an empty room. "Clifford," Clifford, Emily said how she was worried about how scared you were. "How about sleeping here for the night? It's big, and you fit in, and your nose won't get wet at all, like in your kennel. You'll be okay in here I'm sure," the little purple dog had said. The writing was in purple to represent who was speaking. Page 8 consisted of Clifford lying down in the large wooden building with his eyes closed peacefully. It simply said, "Clifford slept well that night." I was reluctant to turn the page. A bad feeling in my gut arose, and I got worried about what was coming up next. Curiosity killed the cat as I turned the next page to see the building on a slight angle with tears of lightning in the air behind it. At the bottom it said, "The lightning was close to Birdwell Island." Now I was really getting worried. "Get a grip, you moron. It's just a stupid children's book." I cursed at myself for being childish. Written by a psycho, and I shook my head at the thought of who wrote it and turned to the next page. This book, not half bad anyway, considered what I was expecting. My thoughts of it being an ordinary book were shattered when I saw the large wooden shed-like building being struck by lightning. It was no longer a cartoon novel. Either Dreen stepped up her game in those right drawings and colors of her, or that was a real photographer. What? I questioned aloud to myself. What the bloody hell is this? Page 10 was an image of the shed in pieces and a large red paw hanging from under the rubble. Clifford got hurt that night in his new home, was all the text said. Next page showed some police officer Pete standing by what was no longer rubble, but the lying body of a large red creature. It didn't show what happened. It just had a large silhouette of the man attempting to hide the body of the unfortunate soul. Page 12 almost had me vomit as it showed a lifelike body of a dog's body cut open. It was in black and white and extremely realistic, as thought it was an actual dog. No. I mumbled to myself as I clutched my head. That wasn't Clifford. That was a photographer. It was my Labrador from 2 years ago. She went missing one day, and the police said she'd been found, ran over down the middle with what seemed to be a motorbike. I knew that was her. I recognized Laura from anywhere. This was in no way a drawing, nor was it Clifford. Tears streamed down my eyes as I turned page 12 to see what was on the last page. To my surprise, it was the same picture as the cover, but instead of the title, Clifford the Big Red Dog, it said Clifford the Big Dead Dog in the bone-chilling red. I also looked closer into the final picture. It was not the exact same. Emily wasn't hugging her dog. However, she was there in the background, looking past Jetty and Charlie. Behind them was a tree, and a familiar blonde-haired girl wearing a pink top, black shirt, and skipped knee-high top socks was a hanging Emily. Behind them was a tree, and the familiar blonde-haired girl wearing a pink top, black skirt, and striped knee-high socks was a hanging Emily. If anybody asked, I repeated that a second time just in case you didn't get it. Now where was I? Her body was limp and lifeless. She wasn't much more than a silhouette, but it chilled me to the bone. No pun intended. I put the book back in my bag and went out. I went to buy Annie a cute charm bracelet. It was worth all the money I had, as I originally wanted to save up, but I couldn't give her that thing, nor did I have any other present for her. I've never looked at Clifford the same again since. I can't stand watching the program nor picking up another book. I tore up that copy using a paper shredder, the only copy that existed. The only time I'll see it now is in my nightmares.